This is a Touchstone Publishers presentation, your trusted source of leadership knowledge.
Catherine Morgan is an engaging speaker and the founder of Point A to Point B Transitions Incorporated, named Career Transition Coaching Service of the Year as part of the Corporate Livewire Innovation and Excellence Awards 2021, and Best Executive Career Transition Coaching Provider, North America, as part of Corporate Coaching and Recruitment Awards 2020 by Corporate Vision. The company is a virtual provider of coaching services to professionals and career transition and solo consultants. Catherine is the author of the ebook Relaunch You: Discovering Your Point B and Embracing Possibility. Given the uncertainty around the pandemic and economy, Catherine recently launched an online course to give people strategies for feeling more in control and dialing down anxiety. Join our Director of Operations Glenn Daniels as he learns from TEDx Speaker Catherine Morgan.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. I always have to correct myself. I always start off with good morning and realize I'm the only person who says good morning at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time. I say good morning all the time. So I want to welcome you to our podcast today, but most importantly, welcome our guest, Catherine Morgan. Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm so glad to be here, Glenn.
Well, I think, like I told you in our start, I love these because we get a chance to really dive in and really take apart. Now, what I've been doing, I listened to your TEDx talk a couple of times. So I got a lot of questions about that I want to bring out. But the very first question I'm going to ask you is, if you can, tell us what's unique, powerful, or maybe a need to know about you or your organization or your TEDx talk. Can you share with what you think is unique or powerful and a need to know?
The need to know about me and my company is I help people see possibility, especially when they can't see them. It literally makes me crazy when people think that they don't have possibilities. And in a chaotic career transition that I had, I learned how to see possibilities, and that's what I help people with.
Well, you know what I found interesting, the possibilities. I'm going to ask you about this later on, but I just want to highlight this real quick. In your TED Talk, you talked about the body, mind, and spirit. And I don't think a lot of professionals apply those three things fully in their career. And especially when we talk about transitions and changes. Am I correct in that thought? And like I said, we'll go in detail on that a little bit later, but am I correct in that kind of thought? A lot of people miss that possibility.
I think that that's completely accurate. But as the talk starts where I say we separate the person from the professional, and I think that's a false dichotomy because we are people as well as professionals. And if you don't take care of your body, mind, and spirit, how are you showing up for your work? If you're exhausted and depleted, are you coming up with your best thoughts, your creativity, your disruptive ideas, your innovation? I think not. I don't know how these got separated, but part of my mission is to bring this back together. I just got off a call with my career coaching group, and we were talking about how when you're in career transition, you tend to shut down and lock down. You don't want to spend money. You don't necessarily feel worthy of doing that special thing for yourself that you maybe should do. And I tried to reframe it that if you're doing things to fill yourself up, recharge your battery, fill the well, I call it, you're going to present better. You're going to write better. You're going to have better interviews. You're going to evaluate your opportunities more favorably because you're coming in with a good frame of mind. So instead of seeing what you don't have in a job description, you'll see what you do have. So I actually think there's nothing more important than taking care of yourself, however that is for you.
We're going to dive deep into that in a little bit, but I want to ask you about your journey to the TED Talk. Usually when I ask people about, well, what was that journey like? I'm referring to the time that you created the talk in your own mind, the time you applied for it to get it, what happened, the journey, all the way up to the day that you delivered it. I mean, what was that journey like for you?
Well, I started my business in 2010. And I gave my talk in 2015. So I had been in business for about 5 years, and I developed a body of work and a certain point of view that I wanted to share in a bigger way. At that point, TEDx Talks were getting popular, but they weren't, everybody hadn't done one at that point. And I just sort of put it out into the universe. This is the year I'm going to do a TEDx talk. And I just mentioned it to various people. Hey, you know, anybody who's putting on a TED conference, I'd love to submit an application. And I submitted some applications to local events and whatever that I didn't get chosen. And then a random friend of the family who I hadn't seen in 20 years said, hey, they're putting on a TEDx talk down here near me. Do you want me to submit you? And I said, yes, I do want you to submit me. And the conference was on sustainability, meaning corporate sustainability and recycling and all that stuff. And I'm like, how do I tie in what I know into sustainability? And that's where the personal energy thing came in.
Right. Sustaining personal energy to fuel professional success. I thought that was a very powerful, very nice title, especially when I listened to the whole TED Talk. I started thinking, okay, that's great. So up on the screen, for those of you who do get to see this on the screen, the link is there for it. But just go to search TED Talk, and you can go ahead and search for Catherine Morgan, or you can go ahead and search Sustaining Personal Energy to Fuel. I want to ask you something, though, about this. You kind of hit it early on. Tell us about work-life balance and why you feel like it doesn't exist.
Okay, let's think about balance for a second.
Okay.
Imagine a gymnast on a balance beam, right? They're putting their foot. Balance is fleeting. You're sort of not falling this way, then you're not falling that way. So balance is gotten in between the not falling.
Okay.
I like to have more control and think of it as work-life allocation, because different things will happen at different times of your life and you'll need to make different choices. If I'm launching a new product or service in my business, then a lot of my time is going to be dedicated to that, and my personal relationships may have to take a back seat. If I'm going on a fitness quest and I want to lose 20 pounds, then that's going to take top priority. But if we're talking about balance, it seems like there's a pie and there's only so many slices of energy and we've got to get them even. And that's not my experience of life. Life throws you curveballs and you have to adjust. So if you say, okay, I'm in charge, I'm going to allocate this amount of time to this. I need this for my business. Right now I'm writing a book. I know you've written a book. It's a big time commitment. So I'm backing off certain client responsibilities to carve out more time for the book. But I feel in control. I don't feel out of balance. I just think balance sets us up to feel like we're always failing.
I like your thought about allocation. What are you allocating your time toward? Oftentimes in time management, people will say, okay, I blocked out an hour and a half. Okay, did you allocate that to do your marketing and you did Facebook instead? No. How are you allocating your time?
This girl might be guilty of that.
My hand goes up. But I won't say Facebook. I'll say TED Talks. That's what happens sometimes. I start listening to a bunch of different TED Talks. Though you brought up an interesting point. How do we find that balance? I mean, when you were explaining it, I was thinking about a gymnast on a balance beam. Every step they have to allocate something different, use a different set of muscles, every swing of the leg or arm movement. How do you suggest that we allocate this time in our business and personal life in a healthy way?
Yeah, that's the $24,000 question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, a certain number of hours need to be for your business or your career, however you're making your living. Most of us have to make money to pay our bills.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then there's a lot of other time that you actually have more control of, and there's more of it than you think. You might be able to allocate time for a morning routine. I kind of hate that term, but I am a big fan of my morning routine. I have my coffee. I do my journaling every day. I do some meditation. I do a bunch of things, but that's time that no matter what else is going on in my life, it stays. Like that's fixed. That's allocated. I may do fewer client calls that day. I may do whatever. Exercise, got to be in there for me. I'm not trying to tell you what you need to do. And then there's a lot of time because people are like, oh, okay, I don't have enough time in the day. I can't do this because I don't have any time. So I actually almost had fruit thrown at me when I was in LA. I said, if you don't feel like you have enough time in your day, stop watching television. The average person spends 4 hours watching television. I just found you 4 hours. If you don't like that answer, go look for it somewhere else. You can keep a log of how you spend your time because it's invisible, like those YouTube detours that you and I are prone to.
Yep.
If you keep track that we just spent 30 minutes watching, pick your person that you like to follow, that's 30 minutes that could have been done on something else. And if you say, you know what, that was my treat for the day and I'm totally good with my 30 minutes, no, that's fine. But if that's 30 minutes that I really should have been spending on my book, then my allocation's off.
Okay. So, and I like that idea though. Look at how much TV you're watching, and maybe you can even take an hour of that TV program or even 30, 45 minutes of that TV program and put that into your morning start. I'm with you. I don't really care for the term morning ritual. I think it's morning start. Start your morning, win your day.
Here's what I know. If I don't do my mindfulness meditation, you don't want to talk to me. Like I meditate for other people, not for me. It makes me a much nicer person.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Huh? It really is funny. But no, so we're talking about, it's funny. It makes you not such a happy person. But if you're working, period, you got to deal with this issue. And I like that it's a focus of yours. Toxic work environments. And they can take a terrible toll. Tell us a little bit about, I just saw your face cringe. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh my God, toxic work environments. All right, so that was really the genesis of my TEDx talk.
Yes,
that's the reason I did this particular talk. I had a friend who was overworking for over a year, not taking vacations. If he did get away, he wasn't unplugging. He was literally working 7 days a week. And what I was watching was a slow motion train wreck that was going to end up in a health diagnosis or a car crash or something. It was just that obvious to me. And when I told my girlfriend about the topic of my TEDx talk, she's like, oh my God, our friend, insert his name, needs to quit his job. It's going to kill him. I'm like, right topic. And then I had another colleague at a different company who was very healthy in her 30s. She actually had a stroke from work stress and ended up having to take the time off she should have taken off before. So she didn't have the stroke. And I almost stroked out. My blood pressure was dangerously high at my last job because the job was undoable for me. It was doable for other people, but not the right job for me. And I almost stroked out in my boss's office on Christmas Eve trying to get a proposal out the door. So those three things queue up. And that's not the toxic work environment that I was talking about there. But what it can do is it can lead to these health issues that we started our conversation with. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're overworking, if you're in a badge of busyness corporate culture, you can get physically ill. We know that stress causes migraines and stomach disorders and high blood pressure and rashes and. We know this.
Stress kills.
Stress can kill. Yeah. Oh, interestingly enough, though, if you are able to sort of switch the way you think about certain kinds of stress and reframe it as excitement, that can actually change your outcome, but it takes some little flexibility. But toxic work environments, as in your boss is beating you up every day, your colleagues are gunning for you, you don't feel safe. I've had people be in conference rooms where someone lifted up a conference room chair and hurled it across the room, and she felt completely unsafe. I hear everybody's bad stories because I'm in the career transition coaching business. Nobody calls me when things are going well. So I can tell you a million stories and you'd be like, what? This happens in corporate. And that's toxic work environments. You start thinking that you're crazy. or that you should be able to hack it, or there's something wrong with you. No, it's a toxic work environment, and get out of there before you have a health diagnosis.
Well, okay, so I like that, get out there before you have a health diagnosis, but you also have a program that I want to sound, I don't know if it came before the TEDx or came after the TEDx, but my question kind of is, okay, you said the work environment can take a terrible toll, but you have a program called Dialing Down Anxiety.
Yes.
Tell me, how did the TED Talk, how does that fit into your approach to things? Just tell me a little bit about how that works.
Actually, the TED Talk was, I Dialed Down Anxiety was launched during the pandemic because surprisingly, a lot of people are very stressed out. Anxiety has skyrocketed in the general population and in segments of the population that were previously unaffected. It's a 10-day e-course, and it pulls out a lot of the stuff that's covered in my TED Talk about the body, mind, spirit thing, and reframes like the stress versus excitement. Sort of in the body, anxiety and excitement can kind of feel the same. So sometimes you are legitimately anxious and you should address that. And sometimes you're just kind of excited and you're like, oh, but in the body, it can feel the same way, and you need to name it appropriately. And we talk about the benefits of morning rituals. We talk about stretching. We talk about there's certain body techniques where you can signal to your body that it's not actually in danger. Things that you could do in the middle of a Zoom call when that person is saying that thing that sends you, and nobody would see you doing it. And so I don't know, it's just 10 days of a couple different things every day to give you control, because we know what makes us more crazy, right? We know that person, that news source. We know how to make ourselves work, dial it up. So I wanted to give somebody the ability to dial it down.
Okay, I like that, because what you're saying, I wanted to ask about the body, mind, and spirit, the combination. So in this course that you're dealing with, it helps bring people down. By using your body, your mind, and your spirit. Okay. Now, kind of phased out there real quick, because I was trying to go back in my mind and remember, did you discuss dialing down? And you did in your TED Talk, what you can do with your body, what you can do with your mind, and what you can do with your spirit.
Yeah, we dropped into gratitude at one point, and it was funny when I was on stage. I could see the house lights were fairly high, so I could see the audience, and I'm like, I am grateful for my strong, healthy body. I'm grateful for my loving friends and family. And the whole energy of the room just went, And I looked out and I saw some woman just smiling at me, just this like heart connection. So, and it took seconds. Like if we remember to do some of these things that we know mentally to do, we forget to do. Think of how much better your life is. Well, how did that take? Like 10 seconds.
Well, not even that, because I'm going to ask you about something that if people, when they look at your TED Talk, they'll see it happens. And it happens in some TED Talks. You had some technical glitches, some technical difficulties. Look at your face.
We had so many. You know what? I was tempted to edit them out, Glenn. I was tempted to edit out the lights coming down and making that weird noise. It seemed like space landing, and then the clicker thing. And I wanted to leave it in there because that's real. Like that's what happens when you're a speaker. And I wanted to run off the stage screaming when that happened. I'm like, you guys already tanked my talk. I spent 45 hours prepping for this stupid 18-minute talk, and now it's already ruined. Like I went there right before I started, but you can't see it in my face because I'm like, joking around, but I wanted to run off that stage.
So how did you do that? That's what I want to know. How did you decide, okay, this is messed up, to keep it clean? Okay, this is really messed up. What did you do with your body, your mind, and your spirit?
It was way more messed up than that, by the way, because there was flash flooding and it started late and half the audience wasn't able to make it. And my car almost got stuck in a puddle that was over the highway. Like it was way worse than that. And then it was on top of that. And then I was the first speaker and I'm not a morning person. Like it was pile after pile after pile of stuff. And I just had to drop into the why I was there. I thought that this was an important talk. I thought that this is so embarrassing to say, but I'm going to share it with your audience. I thought this was my lottery ticket. Like, what if it gets picked up? What if I'm the next Simon Sinek or Brene Brown or whatever? Like,
Yes,
who knows, right?
Yeah. And that's a powerful spot. So, but what I like that you said, I want to just see if we can dive into a little bit more. In order for you to do this, with all this stuff going on, you just reminded yourself, why are you here?
Why am I here? Why am I here? I put in this time. I worked with a coach. I created the best talk I was able to do at that point. And I was just going to be darned if I didn't go out there, even if I face planted, like I was going to do it.
Okay. So when you were putting this together, you said something else just for those folks who were maybe thinking about becoming a TED Talk person. You said you spent 45 hours for what was 18 minutes.
Yep.
And you had a little bit less time because you had those glitches in there.
45 hours. And I paid my beloved friend to videotape me and critique me and walk me through some of the using the stage thing that I didn't have as much experience with back then. Yeah, 45 hours. And I was, by the way, kind of bitter about it. And during the pandemic, a friend of mine put out a CD, and I realized how much time his 4-minute songs took. He probably had 45 hours of work for a 4-minute song. I'm like, oh, well, my musician friends and my artist friends understand the time investment for this, but it's not a small time investment, folks. Be committed.
Yeah, because they say the safe rule is 5 hours per minute.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's well, it depends on who you talk to, because some people think, oh, it's 15 hours per minute. I work that much. No, you don't.
Yeah, for your $40,000 keynote, I'd work that hard too.
Actually, by the time you're ready to do a $40,000 keynote, it takes no time because you've been doing that keynote forever. So you're ready to go do it. So that's just a whole nother subject, though, whole nother thing. When you were in the talk, you said something else that just really caught me, because I think for most people, this ideal of self-care, that's kind of, I can't take 30 minutes or an hour for myself. I got family to feed. I got things to do. And most people feel a little bit guilty when they go self-care. I mean, I just made a vow to myself that I was going to go to one baseball game a month for self-care.
There you go.
I have to wonder how many people in your work did you find out that needs to hear the statement, self-care isn't self-indulgent?
100% of the people watching this need to hear it. Everybody needs to hear it. The woman on my call right before this was in tears. She's like, I just don't feel worthy of that right now. I don't feel like I can walk away from my laptop because I should be here looking for jobs. I'm like, I promise you that you can constrain what you're doing into 90 minutes, get exactly as much done, and have a lot of fun. We are coming out of lockdown, folks. We were coming out of a year and a half of being at home. We're exhausted. We're grieving. We're traumatized. If we ever needed to prioritize self-care, it might be today.
Right. In my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, coach me on this, self-care also means taking the rest. So that's at 90 minutes, then resting, or getting enough rest in that time.
Put a nap. I mean, those of us who work for ourselves, some days, you know what? Nap time, 2:30 to 3:15, or whenever your downtime is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also always, when it's nice out and I can get outside, I try to go outside for a walk to break up the day. I come back refreshed. I come back with some blog post topics like that's, or I'll chew on something. A lot of speakers I know walk their talks into their body as part of their process.
Yes.
That seems to be pretty common. So us speakers, we walk a lot. If I can't get outside, I'll put on some music and dance in my kitchen. But I think we've over-indexed on intellectualism when we forget the body. The body can be really helpful. Or if we don't take care of the body, it can tell us we need to take care of it.
Finds a way to tell you. So you just did this during the pandemic, but so when you did the talk, how did it affect you? I mean, how did that?
Oh my God! Go. Look, I want to. We were on the. I'll go to there 1 second.
Okay.
I just want to say, when I did that talk, nobody told me that completely white out, blanking out on stage is a thing, and it happens to speakers. And it doesn't mean you're crazy or losing your mind or going to tank your speech or that the audience will even notice. But I had a full-on whiteout at one point where I had no idea where I was, who I was, what I was doing. So just know that that can happen.
It does. It does. It happens no matter where you are. I mean, it happens.
You've done a lot more speaking than I have, so I'm sure you can vouch for the fact that it happens.
It happens.
Nobody told me that was a thing. Nobody also told me that it was a thing to have like a massive energy crash when you get off stage and want to crawl into the back of your Volkswagen in the fetal position and just lie there and not be shaking hands and talking about your talk. So if that happens to you folks, when you give your talk, I'm there with you.
Yeah, because it does happen. It does happen. And you just have to kind of remember, let my mind and spirit run things.
Absolutely. So regarding my current work, my talk is clearly part of my marketing kit. It's publicly posted on my LinkedIn profile. That's how you found it. It's on my website in a couple different places, obviously my speaking page, but also on one of my services pages. And I get, first of all, video is super powerful for marketing. People feel like they know you after they see you on video, whether they've actually met you or had a conversation with you. So that's a very good reason. Doing something structured like a TEDx talk forces you to be very professional, and it gives you free video. Yes, you invested all that time, but it does give you generally some high quality video. Another train wreck of this whole TEDx experience for me, and thank you for not commenting on it, Glenn, was the fact that I don't have professional video. It never got on the TEDx site. The group that I gave the talk for, I guess, fell afoul of some rule with the TEDx, or the flooding damaged the film or something. I don't know what happened, but that if my friend hadn't been sitting in the audience with her trusty iPad against the rules recording it, I would not have any video from that, and the whole thing would have been a waste.
Well, it could feel that way. And I got it, just as a side note, oftentimes, not often, but I've heard that from several different people now who line up to these TEDx, to this podcast with me. The guy lost his license and not allowed to do it. I kind of got snowed in that. The worst one, I think, is the guy told me that he was told, because going to a place that had 55,000 seats, and when it started, they had 5 people in the audience.
Yeah, they don't tell you that if it's a new TEDx thing, they're only allowed to have 50 people in the audience, and they have to have speaker and video and speaker and video. So oddly enough, because the universe has a funny sense of humor, I modeled my talk after Brene Brown's TEDx Houston talk, The Power of Vulnerability.
Yes.
And by just a quirk of fate, that was the video they played right after me, was the talk that I modeled my talk on.
That sounds pretty good. So I want to ask you, though, because your work, like I said, you did the TED Talk in 2020. Okay, so just through this pandemic.
No, the TED Talk was 2015.
2015, excuse me. That's right, 2015. Okay, yeah. Okay, 2015. 15. Yeah, 2015. 1-5. Yeah, 1-5. So when I asked you, I said, where did that take you? How did that affect you? Not so much take you. How did that affect you to be able to say, I'm on TEDx stage?
I have to tell you, it felt great. From an ego gratification point of view, I felt like I had taken my speaking to a new level that was validated. It wasn't just me saying, hey, I'm a better speaker now. It was taking it to a certain level. I did get a lot more speaking engagements, some paid, some unpaid, where I was selling my coaching. So I actually made plenty of money from speaking. I got to give my talk for the speakers organization I was part of at that point. So I was speaking for speakers. I felt that it was a great investment of my time to take my speaking skills to the next level, to give me credibility for my clients, to give me marketing credibility. Like, there was zero downside to this except the time investment. It's had a payoff. It still pays off. I still have people telling me how much they love my talk. I still have people jumping on my calendar to have consultation calls with me because they saw my talk. So I highly recommend it as a strategy. If you're a speaker, if you have some compelling message that you think would serve your business, I think it's a very good use of your time.
Okay. I have a 3-part question for you about dialing down the anxiety. Okay. Again, for those of you who have seen this online, you see the URL for it. But my question for you, number one, is what are the top 3 things that are there for me to learn?
That you have more control than you think. That your brain actually works for you. Think of your brain as a golden retriever, and what you tell it to go after, it will. And that things that seem kind of woo-woo, like personifying your anxiety or dialoguing with it, can actually be really helpful, because when we struggle is when we're either not naming something or it's sort of in our shamey, sticky part on the side. But I will happily tell you that my anxiety is personified. He's a combination of a gargoyle pug. He's about this big. He's black. His name is Seymour. And Seymour will come and tell me all these super unhelpful things, like, why would you do a TEDx talk? You're going to make a fool out of yourself. You're going to spend all this time. No one's going to look at it. You're going to, whatever, fall on your face, fall off the stage, whatever. Thank you, Seymour. Then I send Seymour to his dog bed. And once again, I'm in control. It's not very different than the allocation, because anxiety is going to be there. We all have it. We're human. But here he is, Seymour, talking to him. Sometimes he tells me something helpful, mostly he doesn't. And then he goes to his dog bed, but I'm back in control of my life. And then I go and do my thing.
Do your TED talk. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now tell me a little bit about the actual framework of dialing down anxiety. If you can, just tell us about the framework. In other words, how long does it take to get through the course? How's the course laid out?
I made it really easy. I don't know about you, but I get kind of annoyed by everybody's, get onto our platform, make your password and your thing that you'll forget, and learn our new system. And it's just like, So it's emailed to you. You go to idialdown.com, you sign up, and you get an email to you once a day about a specific topic. The first day is journaling and a little bit of gratitude and just what we'll cover in the course. Second day, we talk about naming over the course, how to name your anxiety. We just went through that with Seymour. We talk about some somatic techniques that you can use to just get yourself to calm down. We talk about some breathing. We talk about some different mindfulness. We talk about I even had an interview with my dear friend Shweta Shamani about hypnotherapy as an option for some people. Take what you find helpful, ignore the rest of it. There's just technique after technique after technique, some science-backed stuff, some Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5-second rule. Yeah. But if you've not heard about it, you're like, that 5-second rule, that changed my life. So there's going to be something in the 10 days that you're going to be like, that thing, that changed my life. During the pandemic, it was box breathing. You know who talks about box breathing? 2 groups of people: yoga studios and special forces operatives. Nobody in the general population talks about the power of box breathing except for the ultimate woo and the ultimate not woo.
Yeah. That's interesting. Can I ask you what box breathing is?
Sure. It's a very even way of, once again, tricks your body. In about 5 minutes, you can completely reset your level. So think of 1 second to 1, 2, 3, 4. Very even cadence.
Okay.
Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold with your lungs full, 1, 2, 3, 4. Release, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold with your lungs empty, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just start on a normal second.
Yeah.
It has to be the same cadence all the way around, very even count. And what I can tell you is by round 3 or 4, your body's like, oh, I'm not at risk. Oh, I'm not getting chased by a tiger. Oh, my mother-in-law's snotty statement isn't going to kill me. Like,
yeah. Oh, there's 55,000 people waiting for me to talk to them. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I like that.
But I can't recommend box breathing enough. You can use it in a doctor's office. You're sitting there waiting for the dentist for the root canal, and you're blah, 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 blah. So box breathing, no one sees you do it. If you're home and you want to do like the long exhale through the mouth, fine. If you're just breathing through your nose, I've done it in dentist's office. I've done it in doctor's offices. I've done it waiting to get on stage. I've done it in bed at night. That is, if you take nothing away from this talk except how to do this box breathing exercise, your life just got better.
What did you learn differently that is dialing down, I dial down versus your TEDx? What's different about those two?
One's more theoretical and one's more tactical. The I dial down is all strategies that I personally have used and used with my clients for the last 11 years. One thing that's guaranteed to get you into occasional bouts of depression and anxiety is job search. Now, if you're naturally prone to that because that's just how you are, you're going to have more of it. But every human in career transition has little emotional ups and downs as a result of their transition. So these tactics are just things I've picked up from here. Oh, this is, science-based. Oh, this is a little on the woo-woo side. Oh, this is an artistic creative recovery program. Like, I've pulled it from all these different sources, just put it in one place. And by the way, it's very cheap. It's only $37. So
yeah, people can live with that, and everybody still has that opportunity to do it because it's on the screen still. But I'm going to change the screen because you have something else that I'm wondering, how did this morph out of the TED Talk? And that's your relaunch program.
Oh yeah, those are dovetailed. Dovetailed. That's my ebook. Somewhere around the TED Talk, I was very prolific that year, but they cover a lot of the same things. The ebook goes more into specifically career translation because obviously I'm using it as a lead magnet to fill my coaching business. But a lot of the concepts are the same, that self-care and being able to show up as your best self and evaluate opportunities properly and prioritize and be discerning, and all that stuff is covered in the ebook. It's free. But between my ebook and my TEDx talk, I have to tell you, I have gotten the most amazing feedback from people from around the world. And as a content creator, I'm sure you know that when people respond and say that it spoke to them, thank you for putting it out there, or I found it just when I needed it, and you're like, oh, my heart.
It sounds so great. Yes, and it feels so great. When you see that light come on in somebody's eyes, I agree with you.
Yeah. So, especially from around the world, now that we have, it always blows my mind. I got an email from a entrepreneur of a biotech startup in Israel, and she told me why she loved my ebook and then gave me some of her background as context. And I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah, yes, that's what you got to do. Now, I find it amazing that this TED Talks and TEDx, but TED Talks more so than TEDx, those are worldwide things. I was teasing somebody, said, your TED Talk is, you want to get nervous, think about maybe there's only 5, 10, 50 people in the room. But you could get 3, 4, 5 million people.
I was hoping if they did,
so it's different. And it will.
It's still heartbreaking, Glenn. I have to say that if you have the hopes that it's going to make it on the TEDx platform and for whatever reason it didn't, at least I got some good photos. I was able to reach out and somebody sort of back channeled me some really good photos. So that was like, oh, it really happened. Because you start to think you're nuts. right?
Oh yeah. And you wait for it. People are saying, well, where is it? Did you
It's
actually
going to be
really do
July.
it?
Yeah. I did it in May, and they'll say it'll be up by July. And I'm like going to the Facebook group. I'm like, hey, any idea on the timeline of this? I know.
It's actually August now. Where is it? And people are calling me names, saying I'm not telling the truth. So I want to be cognizant of your time. But here's a question for you. What we talked about today, if you had to just pick one golden nugget, and I call this a nugget where someone's going to sit down and not type it, but write it down, not try to remember it. If you had to give just one golden nugget from our conversation today, what would that be?
It's got to, self-care is not self-indulgent, Glenn. I know we've beaten this one into them, but I don't think coming out of a global pandemic for 18 months, that isn't the thing we all need to live by. Go have some fun, get lots of sleep, be kind to yourself. You have trauma, you have grief, you haven't even started to process from this, and it's going to bubble up. Take care of yourself and be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself and others, because everybody's struggling. I hear everybody's deep, dark secrets, and please trust me when I say that everybody's struggling.
Okay. And I believe that. I believe that completely. So what questions should I have asked you that I didn't?
Yeah, the question is, how did you feel when you walked off the stage, Catherine? And
Good question. How did you feel when you walked off the stage?
I had every emotion on the rainbow. I felt great. I felt I nailed it. I felt I completely face planted. I felt that I was, I wanted to crawl into my car in the fetal position. I could only see I could only remember what I wished I'd said differently. This woman who was kind enough to get me be there with her iPad, thank God. She's like, that was beyond excellent. And I couldn't take the commenting because all I could see what was wrong. I didn't know how to stay in the moment. And then you're invalidating your audience. If you're saying, well, I wish I'd said that, like, you're not, the energetic is off. Accept it and say thank you. Be gracious. Honor their experience. If they loved it, they loved it. You did your job.
Okay. Now, if you could look back on that now and live with what you know now, how would you have handled the anxiety, the stress of what you felt at the time? Well, when you came off stage, how would you coach me and say, Glenn, you're going to come off the stage, you're going to feel this way, this way, this way. I'm going to give you something to do, body, mind, and spirit. I'm going to give you something to do to help cover that. Box breathing. Well,
okay, I am going to recommend what I did. If you have the emotional fallout that I had as a result of it, I was worried that I was not going to be able to get on the stage again, because I was the fallout and I felt afterwards. I actually called a therapist friend of mine who's also a well-known public speaker, and I said, I need an intervention with this because I'm afraid I won't be able to get on the stage again, and I need this to not like get in my body and my mind. He's a night owl, so at 10:30 at night, we're on the phone and he's walking me through this de-escalation process. So if you have any fallout from your speaking, go get somebody to help you with it. If you don't know who to call me and I'll refer you to some people, because don't let whatever your reaction, good or bad, like throw you off your game. You need to put your work out there. You need to move your career and business forward and your speaking forward if that's what you're looking to do. And don't let something be an unnecessary roadblock.
Love that. Love that. I think that's powerful. So the last thing I want to ask you, well, maybe not. How do people get a hold of you to say, hey, coach me? Or I enjoyed this. I want to ask questions about it. How do people get a hold of you?
Love to connect with people on LinkedIn. I am very, very active on LinkedIn. There's a lot of content from me there. My website is long, but you'll remember it. Point A to point B, transitions.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn or find me through my website. And I'd love to talk with you and hear what you want to create, because I believe in possibilities, darn it. So if you can't see any, call me up and I'll
help you find some.
Help you see some.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for your time. It's been very enjoyable, very educational, a little bit out of the box thinking, put the mind, body, and spirit to work, to relax and enjoy.
Relax
Take a
and
break.
enjoy.
Yeah, take a break. So I want to thank you very much for your time and your effort here.
Thank you so much, Glenn. It was an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.